Hey everybody, and welcome to WretroMania, a retrospective pro wrestling podcast. I'm your host, artist and entertainer from Baltimore, Maryland, Coby Nida, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host.
Hello everybody, I'm Jimmy Price. I am the commentator for District City Wrestling, as well as hanging out around the Baltimore comedy scene here and there.
The theme of the show is we're going to go back and cover the most famous or infamous wrestling events, storylines, feuds, matches, and memories. And we're going to start it off with our first season, The Origin of Attitude. Yes, indeed. This is the first episode. The last one was a prelogue. We kind of caught up on what we're going over here on the Origin of Attitude.
Absolutely. Brought you from the start of it all with our, primary characters or figures, if you will, and took you all the way up to the magical year of 1996.
Yes, indeed. We have four established characters in here. Some will take a seat in the back, and some other characters will rise up as well.
Definitely.
So, yeah, last episode we geared up basically building towards WrestleMania 12. The epic
60-minute Iron Man match.
Yes, indeed. But before then, we'll go into a little detail. January 1996, the Royal Rumble. That's January 21st in Fresno, California. Here we have the match where Shawn Micheals wins the Royal Rumble, and he last eliminates Diesel. That's his friend at the time. And that's going to build to some other things because Diesel has kind of shifted into this area, this gray area.
Yeah.
And as well as his buddy Razor Ramon, he gets beat by Goldust for the IC championship at this Royal Rumble event. And they're supposed to go on to feud, Goldust and Razor Ramon. It's not likely to happen, though.
No. Razor may have had some qualms with the creative direction of that feud,
right?
Which may have led to some overall frustrations as well as some future greener pastures taking him away from Stanford.
Right. So Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, Kevin Nash, aka Diesel, who you will later know as the Outsiders.
Yes.
They're not feeling WWF at the time, and they're kind of in the talks with getting out of their deals and signing a new deal with WCW.
WCW, yeah. I think Razor was the first one to enter talks with Bischoff and everybody over there, and I mean the main thing I think creatively their hearts were in WWF. Their friends obviously in HBK and the Kid and one Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So their hearts were in WWF, but Bischoff was putting serious money and guaranteed money.
They'll have significantly less wrestling dates and guaranteed money, like you said.
Yeah.
And so they're in talks with Eric Bischoff, apparently around this time.
Yes, yeah. And Razor gets word, and eventually Kev follows suit. But that's in the beginning stages of those talks up in early 96, where we are now.
Exactly. And from then on, Vince McMahon will kind of put the kibosh on Razor and Diesel and kind of slowly move them down the card. But Diesel is still a main player right now.
Yep.
Actually, in the WWF Championship match at the Royal Rumble, it's The Undertaker and Bret Hart. And they go 28-31, and it's a DQ.
Yeah.
And that's because Diesel comes out and attacks.
Yeah, just kind of, and this is sort of his official heel turn. He did sort of, coming out of the Survivor Series '95, he, was frustrated and, sort of building that tension toward a heel turn, and then coming out and costing Taker, who was, like we mentioned in the last episode, it was sort of a babyface versus babyface situation with Bret and Taker at that point, and so costing Taker his title was sort of a definite solidifying the heel turn.
Exactly. And then another big landmark moment, 1996 is the first pay-per-view appearance on WWF for Steve Austin.
Yes.
And he is actually known as the Ringmaster. He's got blonde hair and the $1 Million Man right behind him.
Yeah, Vince was sure that this was going to get him over. He put him with Ted DiBiase, and they even brought back the old $1 Million title to put on him. I don't know if he ever defended it. Yeah, I feel like he may have defended it once he got into the Savio Vega feud. But yeah, they put the infamous $1 Million championship on him, and the fans weren't going for it as much.
Not really feeling it. I remember him debuting, and I was like, whoa, this guy's pretty deadly, but it's a little boring.
Yeah. All business, so sound in the ring, but not a lot going on in terms of promos or anything like that. Not that they really let him loose, so to speak, yet. But I think DiBiase's inclusion was definitely a hindrance early in his career.
Right. I think the more exciting thing for me was that he just had the $1 Million belt.
Yeah. I was all about it too. I'm a belt mark.
So he was actually supposed to be one of the final four in that Royal Rumble, but he slips on the ropes with a spot with Fatu and eliminates himself.
Yeah. Tough break for him. He's alluded to this on podcasts since, and just a quick slip, and not the way you want to handle it. Your first. You could call that a push. I mean, I think making it that late into the Rumble is definitely a push. It kind of falls out and costs himself some momentum there.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
He'll get another try.
You think he's going to make it? You think
I don't
he's
know.
going to be okay?
I don't know. I don't know how he'll be in these Royal Rumbles.
Yeah.
So later on, February 1996, we have Diesel is officially the heel, like you said, and Bret and him are set to go one-on-one in a steel cage match because they don't want the interference from the last time that they fought at Survivor Series, and they don't want anything that went on at Royal Rumble.
Yep, nobody can get in that cage.
No, not at all.
Unless you are a quote-unquote phenom and are able to come up from under the ring.
Right.
As was the case at this In Your House pay-per-view. Is this something you remember vividly watching?
Dude, it's ingrained.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I'd ever seen the ring opened up.
Same here. That's, any sort of like deconstruction of the ring was unheard of at that point in WWF.
Right.
And so we get to the climactic stages of Bret and Diesel putting on a pretty good cage match. Not the best match that the two had.
It went pretty long. It was about 19 minutes.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best cage match by far.
No.
But Diesel and Bret performed better at Survivor Series, I'd say.
Definitely. That was the highlight of their feud. But yeah, so they're building towards the finish of the match, and then out of nowhere, you see smoke come up from the ring, and then you see the Undertaker's purple glove
in the center of the ring mat.
Yeah, and as Diesel is crawling and trying to escape the cage, Undertaker drags him down into the ring as smoke billows all around, enabling Bret Hart to escape the cage and go into WrestleMania 12 as your champion. So this is obviously retribution for Diesel coming out and running interference at the Rumble, but sets them up for their semi-main event at WrestleMania 12.
Yep. One of my favorite matches, too.
Yeah.
That's In Your House 6, and another build-up for this event that I had kind of overlooked is Shawn Micheals and Owen Hart. They have a match on this card, and it's actually to declare the number one contender for the title.
Yeah.
And this is a feud that has a lot of things weaved into it, basically. Owen Hart, he has the claim of being the better Hart over Bret because he had beaten him before and still wanted that title and not in the shadow of Bret. And he had also caused a storyline concussion to Shawn Micheals in 1995.
Yeah. This was a very dramatic episode of Raw, as I remember. Owen hits him with his enziguri, which was always more of like the spot. Of course, is always somebody catches Owens' leg and he jumps for like, it feels like 30 seconds. It's not that long, but it feels like forever. And then jumps up and catches him with the enziguri. So they do that spot in a match with against Shawn, and Shawn's just out cold. They go to commercial break with Shawn out, and when they come back, this is like, again, something I remember watching as a kid and like being imprinted on me. Shawn's like, they don't just do a stretcher job. They like, I think Shawn had an oxygen mask. Like they like were really selling like that. This was a
trainers were out there, people that you didn't see normally. It was a little, it was trying to break the reality.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it certainly was. To some people, there was women upset in the audience. I remember that.
Small children.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Bigger children.
So they're set for that rivalry right there. And they go on to have a 15-minute match. And wouldn't you know, Shawn Michaels kicked it out the park.
Can't stop that boyhood dream.
No, you can't. So the infamous Iron Man match is up next. We have March 1996. This is March 30th in Anaheim, California. WrestleMania 12. This is the one where I was seeing it live.
Yeah.
I remember this the whole time. Brought a friend with me who wasn't really that big of a wrestling fan, but he still knew.
Yeah.
And he just would not shut up about Shawn Michaels. It made me so irritated.
Was he talking shit about Shawn?
No, he wanted Shawn Michaels to win.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, and you're firmly in Bret's camp,
right?
Of course.
And that was my guy. That he was the true champion. He was real to me. He wasn't the fad. I was like, Shawn Michaels. He has always been like a crybaby, like a heel to me in the back. And he kept saying that Shawn Michaels was going to win. I was like, no. Bret's definitely going to win. This is going to be a good match. Bret's going to win though. You'll see.
Yeah.
So we're there at my grandmother's. We're going through the event. Stone Cold wrestles his match against Savio Vega, a man that he would have a feud with and one of his favorite people to wrestle with. And
definitely an underrated feud those two had. I mean, like the strap match they would go on to have at an In Your House was definitely the highlight of that.
Mm-hmm. And that's coming up soon. That's they wrestled a 10-minute match, and Stone Cold gets the victory after using the $1 Million Championship belt. He hits Savio against the head, and when the referees turned, gets the victory. Cheap victory there, but
classic heel move.
Yep. Then you get Triple H. He's going against the returning Ultimate Warrior. And I think I was really surprised. Like, I was really stoked to see WrestleMania because Ultimate Warrior's return, too.
Yeah.
This was the big hype on the show.
Oh, yeah. It was a huge deal. I remember being excited about it. But yeah, they promoted it as if it were the main event. I mean, the deal that Warrior got when he came back in '96 was just ridiculous. Like, there were comic books, and I think they were like hyping some sort of training school.
The Warrior Academy.
Warrior Academy. So he got all this stuff in the deal, and so this was WrestleMania was his triumphant return, goes in there against the future COO of the company and beats him in about like
1 minute and 39 seconds.
1 minute and 39 seconds.
Pretty fast.
Yeah,
Triple H said he had some other ideas for the match, and Jim Hellwig, the Ultimate Warrior, just kind of nixed it. Was like,
nah.
We're going to go a couple shoulder blocks, power slam. That's it. I'm out, brother.
Yeah, and I think no sells the pedigree, right? Because he takes a pedigree and just gets right up. I don't think he even got his robe off.
I think it's one of the only people to no sell the pedigree.
Probably. I mean, I can't think of anybody else who would go on to get away with that.
So then we have the ultimate epic Roddy Piper and Goldust match.
The Hollywood backlot brawl.
Yes, this is getting more into the attitude of the WWF as well, because it was supposed to be Razor and Goldust, but Razor gets popped with drugs.
Yep.
And he's suspended, but it's coincidentally 30 days into his last bit of his contract, so he'll miss WrestleMania. It's kind of a punishment basically from Vince McMahon, because he knows he's going to leave to WCW.
So take that WrestleMania payday away from him and kick him out the door.
Yep. So Hot Rod is in. Roddy Piper is the president of the WWF at the time.
Yes. And
Goldust is making remarks towards him. Piper this, Piper that, and a little innuendo.
Lots of innuendo. Yeah, they were really going for it with this one, and it's a little uncomfortable to watch some of the back and forth promos because Piper says some pretty inflammatory stuff in response, and it's sort of demonizing Goldust, but the things they were doing at this time were, as you said, definitely a harbinger of the Attitude Era, of that edgy sort of content.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it leads these two to have
Hollywood backlot brawl.
Yes,
and that's a pretty good one. It was taped earlier in the day. Or that weekend, I think.
Yeah, I think it was taped before the actual day of the event. Filmed outside of the arena, and there's some quality stunt work in there. Goldust shows up in a gold Cadillac and runs Piper over. Piper, of course, having that background not just in wrestling but also in film, does the stunt,
and he hit the shit out of him.
Took that bump.
And these guys are beating the shit out of each other in this match.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember my grandmother and my aunt were like, "Oh my, this is pretty brutal." And they wet everything down just in case of rain. But it always makes me laugh that in rap videos at the time and anything involving pavement, it was always wet.
Yeah.
Wet pavement is the key for Hollywood back then.
Definitely, yeah.
Adds a little shine and texture to everything.
Exactly.
So they have this match, and then they do the O.J. Simpson, where Piper is chasing Goldust in his gold Cadillac, but Piper gets into a
white Bronco.
Right. Yeah. And then they are, of course, in California. They do the O.J. Simpson footage.
Yeah, and they would cut to it throughout the night a few times.
Yeah, two or three times.
Yeah, in the middle of matches, it would just be footage from the actual OJ chase with Vince McMahon and Roddy Piper, interview over top of it, and it's so over the top and so ridiculous, but that's
exactly the words that my grandmother used.
She's like,
this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's Hollywood. We make movies.
Yep. Exactly. So the end of that match is Piper getting the victory, but he strips Goldust down and he has lingerie on.
Yeah, again.
This is my first exposure to a man in women's clothing.
How did your grandma react to that one?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they were laughing or kind of thinking it was ridiculous. But
because I would have been watching it with my family too, and I don't recall any sort of reaction from it, but it was probably more uncomfortable than I actually felt at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. And after that, we have the semi-main event that we were talking about, Undertaker and Diesel. And that's a 16-minute match, and Undertaker gets the victory, keeps the streak strong.
Yep.
Diesel makes him look good in this match.
Definitely.
It's one of my favorite Undertaker Mania matches.
Yeah, and a really good example of Undertaker, he doesn't I think he sort of, especially early in his career at this point, had sort of a reputation for not being as good of a worker as he would become. This is one of the early really good Undertaker matches, and you can tell the level of respect that Kevin Nash and Taker had for each other, because they're putting it all out there, and they make a memorable match.
Exactly. And like you said, Undertaker had monster matches.
Yeah.
Jimmy the Superfly Snuka, that wasn't that good.
No. And then Jake the Snake. I mean, we can go. I don't mean to keep going down the list, but eventually settled into his previous two matches were against Giant Gonzalez, which will always go down as the worst match in the history of the streak, and then King Kong Bundy at 11, which is no prize either.
No. So after a hard road, he gets a good victory in a hard-fought match.
Yeah.
And then we have the epic main event. And this is it, man. It was an hour long. It was brutal.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, they go an hour, and they call the bell. And I was like, yes, that's it.
That's it.
He won. He kept it.
It's a draw.
That's the rules.
They went Broadway.
He won.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got to beat the champion to get the belt.
Exactly. That's the rules. It's done. My guy won.
Yeah.
No. Gorilla Monsoon, he comes out. Gorilla Monsoon is now the acting president because Piper was active as a wrestler.
Right.
So Gorilla Monsoon comes out, and he says that this match will go to a sudden death.
Yeah, and they really milked this too, and it definitely added to the drama because Bret takes the belt and is just about to leave the entranceway, and there's that classic shot of when Finkel announces it, and Bret turns around just with this look of bewilderment on his face, and I think you and I probably had the same look on our faces at our young age. Of just like, there's no way.
He says, what?
Yeah.
And then he mouths, this is bullshit.
Yeah. Again, getting into that edge.
Yes, indeed. And they come back, and it goes 1 minute and 52 seconds. Bret collides into the corner, turns around, takes the Sweet Chin music. 1, 2, 3, counts the lights. Boyhood dream achieved.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels is in the ring, and he tells Earl Hebner to tell Bret to get the fuck out of his ring.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Allegedly. I don't think Shawn has ever admitted to actually saying that, but he hasn't denied. I think, he tries to paint a better picture, but I think that's exactly what happened.
When you watch the Rivals DVD that they had come out with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels talking about the rivalry that they had, Shawn Michaels' excuse is always, I don't know if I had, I guess I don't know.
I used to take a lot of pills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know if I had said that, or if he said that, I might have said that. Basically.
Yeah.
So he's trying to not take responsibility fully, but he still knows that he was a dick back then.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that's it, man. It's the Shawn Michaels era.
Yeah.
And I was so pissed.
I was not on board. Was never too big of an HBK fan, and I remember being feeling very uncertain about Bret's future as it was at that point, and just like kind of flipping the channel over to WCW a little bit more in the wake of this, and
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would be watching WCW Monday Nitro. We had there was, where I lived at the time, there was my uncle who was the same age. I lived with my grandfather at the time, and my uncle who was the same age had we had a little room for ourselves with the TV. Nice. And then if the parents weren't around, there was the TV in the living room. So I tried to make sure that there was 2 TVs running both programs. It didn't work out all the time, but yeah, I tried that.
Yeah, hey, it's always worth a shot. I mean, if you can have both going and you just run back and forth.
Yeah. This is before I was able to get a TV with the VHS and the automatic recording time. Yeah. I bought that specifically for wrestling. That was a birthday present.
That's so cool.
And it I could set the time for when it would start to record and then end recording, but that all obviously didn't work out because WWF and WCW started feuding so much over the ratings that one would start at like 7:58. Yeah. One would end at like 11:02 or something. Yep. And it would cut off sometimes, so I'd miss important things.
Always head to head. Always up in the ante.
So what I would do is I would use the TV with the recorder to record the program that I wasn't watching, and then watch one on live TV. Yeah. I tried as much as I could.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best way to do that.
And entering into April, Diesel and Razor are definitely set up for WCW now.
Yeah.
We're going into April 28th, 1996. It's good friends, better enemies.
Yeah. So Razor is pretty much out of the picture at this point, but Big Kev sticks around and works a program with his buddy, the newly crowned champion. And they have pretty stiff feud going. The match is pretty brutal. It's a no holds barred match. First time I remember hearing the term no holds barred and like not fully grasping what that meant, or the idea that like it's not really holds that are the concern, but it's pretty much just no disqualification match.
Right.
But yeah, they go in your house, and I don't know how you feel about this match. I really like it.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of additives too, because Hugo Savinovich, one of the Spanish announcers, he gets his shoe taken off by Shawn Micheals, and his boot rather, and Shawn Micheals uses the boot against him. And then also Mad Dog Vachon, who is an amputee, a former wrestler, but he's missing a leg. Diesel pushes him over towards the end of the match, grabs the prosthetic leg. He goes to use it, low blow from Shawn Micheals. Shawn Micheals takes the leg, uses it against Diesel, sweet chin music, and he wins the match.
Yeah.
What an epic ending.
Bonkers. And I mean, like, obviously not fully into the Attitude Era, but this was like, and I feel like if that finish happened in 1998 with Stone Cold and whoever, I think that it would have felt right in place. But the fact that this was going on and like it's still kind of crazy to think about. He took his prosthetic leg and used it as a weapon.
This is something different for WWF because at the time they were staying to tradition of their ways. And WCW, on the other hand, 95, 94, they did wild things like Uncensored and had their what was that, the Blacktop Bully.
Oh, the infamous
Dustin Rhodes, the hay barrel match.
Yeah, where they're on a they literally work on a hay truck while it's
driving
60 miles down the highway. Yeah, and I think I think they both got fired for blading during that match, which is ridiculous. And that's what sends Dustin Reynolds packing his bags for WWF, where he would become Goldust.
Exactly. So WCW has tried all these wacky things. It's kind of different to see WWF incorporate little wacky bits, but they're doing it solid.
Yeah,
and it's got meaning behind it too. They're not just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's there's hate there. It's used in a way that furthers the storyline.
Right. So actually, before the main event, Vader does square off against Razor Ramon, and he beats him.
Oh, he does.
This is setting up Vader.
Yeah,
and Vader's a big acquired talent from WCW as well.
Yes. Yeah. He was
WCW champion.
He was WCW champion. And they brought him in surprisingly. Like him and Mark Marrow, the Wild Man, were the two big signings from WCW in early '96. And surprisingly, I think Marrow got the better deal. Marrow was like the first person Vince ever gave guaranteed money to.
Wow.
Which is surprising, considering that he had Diesel and Razor about to walk out the door and still is willing to do this. But yeah, Vader is getting the big push. He debuts at the Rumble and takes out Gorilla Monsoon, big shock value. And then they kind of squander his WrestleMania 12. Like he
was supposed to have the match with Yokozuna, but I don't think Yokozuna could really go too well.
Okay.
And I don't know if they saw the potential in the match that well. So they team Vader up with Cornette, and he had already had an alliance with Bulldog and Owen to an extent. Mm-hmm. So those three go against Jake, Ahmed, Johnson, Jake the Snake Roberts, Ahmed Johnson, and Yokozuna.
Yeah.
And
so it's a pretty fun. It's a fun little 6-man tag, and I didn't realize that it was supposed to be Yoko and Vader 1-on-1, but I can definitely see why they wanted to cover up Yoko. He was. He's
gearing towards 600 pounds at this time.
Getting way up there, and fortunately it would only get worse.
Exactly. So we have that match with Diesel and Shawn Micheals. after the event goes off the air, we have some dark matches that take place. And it's Savio Vega defeating Stone Cold Steve Austin. See, at the time, they had the in-your-house matches, or in-your-house pay-per-views, where they would have 5 that aired on pay-per-view, and the pay-per-views were maybe about 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And then they would have dark matches for the fans after the pay-per-view went off the air. None that were ever seen. But we had Savio Vega defeating Steve Austin, Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeating, who you spoke about earlier, Mark Merrow. And then we have Undertaker defeating Mankind. Mankind, another big acquired superstar from WCW. But he went to Japan in between.
ECW.
Yeah, ECW. Had some death matches with Terry Funk.
Yeah.
Mankind debuts the day after WrestleMania 12 and attacks The Undertaker. And Mankind is this deranged character. He's doing a elbow drop down from the ring apron onto the concrete floor. He's risking his body. This is more attitude.
Yeah, definitely. And legitimately scary in a way that's not, I mean, not that The Undertaker didn't scare people when he first showed up, but this is scary in like it felt more like an actual horror movie. Like the vignettes were all shot in like, dark cellars, and he would be shrieking, and he would be pulling his own hair out. And I remember, like, especially as a kid, like, it's creepy. Like, it took its effect. It worked. Especially like the pulling of the hair, and like, and like, remember he would like rock back and forth. And
I seriously was trying to figure out if he was a wrestler that I had seen before, because he had the mask.
Yeah. And
I couldn't figure it out. And I thought maybe it was a really deranged person. This is where they were getting me as a child. I was,
why are they letting this guy in the building?
Because as a child, I thought wrestling was real, and then I knew it was kind of fake, because my grandfather would be like, it's fake. Yeah, don't watch the live TV down here. It's fake. Go watch your recording. So I knew it was fake, but then there was moments where I would be like, no, see, that's real. That's gotta be like, there's something to that. And I think that's where I still miss the flavor of the wrestling, is where there's realness.
Blurring lines. It happens sometimes. I mean, any given Brock Lesnar match will have that.
Exactly. And not that I look for somebody to get hurt or anything like that. I want more real physicality in the match. I've seen a lot of matches since then, few and far in between, that do categorize that way, but it doesn't happen like it does in this era we're talking about right now.
Definitely, yeah.
And in this era is when we have the curtain call. We're gearing up for May 1996 now.
Yes.
Hall and Nash, their last contracted match for the WWF, takes place on May 19th, 1996, and that's at the Madison Square Garden. That's home of the WWF.
That is the home base. It's hallowed ground. It's where Vince Sr. ran that building, countless times. Bruno Sammartino, go down the line. This is the home base for WWF. If there's one place you don't want to do anything to disrespect the business in Vince's eyes, like, this is not where you want to do that.
Exactly. So, speaking of disrespecting the business, we have Nash, who's wrestling as a heel, and Triple H, who's wrestling as a heel. Triple H wrestles Scott Hall in that event, and then later on, Shawn Micheals takes on Diesel, Kevin Nash. Yeah. And at the end, they drop everything, and they all come out in the steel cage. Shawn Micheals, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Razor Ramon, and Diesel all hug each other, hold their arms up, and pose to the crowd. It gets a mixed reaction, too.
Yeah, I think especially all the sort of the smart fans are shocked. Because you have HBK and Razor, who are baby faces, and Triple H and Diesel, who are heels. And so, now in sort of like a post-kayfabe era, like, where, nobody really tries to uphold that, because everybody knows, everybody looks at wrestling for what it is. But back then, it wasn't as serious as it was, in the 80s or the 70s, where, guys would have to ride in separate cars or that sort of thing. But definitely nothing in front of the fans that would sort of break down that illusion. And here they are at Madison Square Garden, tearing that wall down.
Right. Like you said, if you were a bad guy, you were a bad guy. And they took like a lot of steps to intricately put you as a good guy then, to twist your character. It didn't just happen all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There was a lot of story and background into it because you legitimately thought this was either a good guy or a bad guy. And that's how I felt too. But apparently this broke everything for them. I didn't know this happened at the time.
No, yeah, I mean, it was a house show, so it's not like they did it on live TV, but, doing it in front of that big crowd in New York City, and of course, lo and behold, it gets out because, they had some fans who had brought a camcorder in, and got the incident on tape, and that would go on to be, internet lore, to this day, is that fan cam footage of the curtain call, but, even...
They say that's the moment when kayfabe was broken.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's as if you're going to pinpoint it, that's as good a place to stick that pin as anywhere.
And I knew that there was wrestling magazines at the time. I would see them, but I didn't know that there was a Wrestling Observer or things behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I just didn't know that existed. And I can't imagine how my world would be if I had known that then.
Yeah.
Rather than knowing it a couple years later when I did get smart to it.
Yeah, I thought I was getting the scoop reading WWF magazine, I thought I was like, oh man.
By articles by Vic Venom.
Vic Venom, let's see. Look, Vic Venom tells it straight, buddy.
Right.
All this other stuff is fake, but what Vic Venom writes is hand to God.
So WWF has that incident on their hand, but Razor and Diesel are going. They're gone. Yeah. Shawn Micheals is your champion. You can't really punish him too much. The only guy left is Triple H.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I mean, I think part of that too is the fact that Bret's gone. Maybe if Bret was there, Vince would have been pissed enough to do a quick switch and put it back on Bret. But yeah, he's the champ. There's no heir apparent to him at the time, and so yeah, that leaves Hunter left holding the bag.
Right. And like you said, Bret's gone. He's taking a break at this time. He also gets offered a WCW contract.
He does.
Yeah.
And a very lucrative one.
Yes, indeed. And he's weighing the options. But he's on the outfield. He's riding the bench right now.
Yeah. He's just swimming laps in his pool thinking about it.
Exactly. That indoor pool.
Yeah.
So nice.
So nice.
So we have WWF punishing Triple H for now on. This is going to be a hard year for him.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
and because he's gotta suffer those consequences of breaking the kayfabe.
Yeah,
but we will reap the benefits of it. Because Beware of Dog comes up next. That's the next In Your House pay-per-view that was building up for Micheals and British Bulldog.
Yes, and
there was an incident where Clarence Mason, who is the British Bulldog's manager and lawyer at the time, They have a subpoena for Micheals to throw him off his game, saying that he had come on to Diana Smith, who is Bret Hart's sister and real-life wife of British Bulldog, and causing a strain in their marriage. So the timing of the subpoena is attempt to throw him off, but it doesn't really work. And neither does this pay-per-view. This pay-per-view is taped twice. The first one is on May 26, 1996, and they get a storm coming through, and the power cuts out to the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of matches in the dark, the lights are out. Then you have the main event, where everything kind of comes back on. It's Shawn Micheals and Bulldog. They wrestle a great match here. I love this match.
Me too.
And I thought Bulldog could have had a chance. Legitimately watching it as a child.
Yeah.
Bulldog accidentally runs into Earl Hebner, knocking him out. So Mike Chioda, the other referee, comes out. So we have two referees going at the same time. They're both kind of getting to their feet as the climax of the match is happening. 17-21. Micheals goes for a suplex, and him and Bulldog both have their shoulders down. Each referee counts the opposite guy's shoulders.
Yeah.
So they call this a no contest. They raise the hand of one person, raise the hand of other,
Yeah.
They can't come to a decision. This is a no contest. It's kind of a stinker of an ending, especially since you got like dark matches and.
Yeah, it would not be fun to be in the audience for this original taping, but yeah, they go with the infamous double pin.
Right. So the next week is actually they usually had tapings of Raw. This is kind of before they went full live.
Yeah.
But the next night live on WCW Nitro, who appears in the crowd? It's Scott Hall, and like we had just seen him on WWF TV. So he comes out of the crowd and he takes a mic and he says, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. You want a war? Hey, Sting, I got a big surprise for you." So it's him challenging the WCW guys, and he's making it appear that he is still this character, Razor Ramon.
Yeah, same voice that you just nailed, had the toothpick, the whole nine. Like he is, they don't call him Razor Ramon, but he walks out there as Razor Ramon.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now seeing Hogan on WCW TV was weird for me. Macho too. Then a couple other guys. But then seeing this to where he's acknowledging the other company.
Yeah. That's
what kind of threw it for me. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah, and not just acknowledging, but like you said, challenging a guy like Sting, who is one of the faces of WCW, and really playing into that real life war that is has been going on for years and will continue for a few more years.
Exactly. So then the next night, May 28th, 1996, supposed to be a Superstars taping. They retape the rest of Beware of Dog, the matches that were kind of blocked by the light. And that's where you get Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating... Oh, I'm sorry. That's where you get Savio Vega defeating Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Savio went over.
Caribbean strap match.
Yeah.
Yep. 21 minutes there for that one. What a hell of a match that was.
They beat the hell out of each other.
Because they beat the hell out of each other the 2 nights before and then had to do it again.
Yeah.
Austin talks about this on his podcast. He says he wasn't a fan of it.
I can only imagine, yeah.
Then you also have a setup for another big heel for Shawn Michaels to face. Vader beats Yokozuna. This is their first little singles match that we get exposed to. 8-minute match, not that great. Vader goes over Yoko.
Yeah.
So he's building up big heel for Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Someone for Shawn to possibly conquer. We'll see. June 1996, June 23rd, 1996, King of the Ring.
This is a big one.
Yep. This is a big one because Triple H was supposed to win this one.
Yeah.
But he loses in the first round to Jake the Snake Roberts.
To 40-something Jake the Snake.
Yeah, and, he's overweight. Not looking that good in the ring.
Not looking good, wrestling in a vest, and not looking his best. So we had mentioned before, Triple H was the one left holding the bag for the curtain call. So this is his comeuppance, and I mean, King of the Ring is a huge deal. This is obviously pre-Money in the Bank era, but I mean, somebody who would go on to be King of the Ring would be slated for bigger things. I mean, the year before, you say what you want about Mabel, but
he did get a title match.
He did get a title match at SummerSlam. So I mean,
and the year before that, Owen as well.
Owen, yeah. So,
and the year before that, Bret Hart.
So it really is like their Money in the Bank of that era, and I mean, it was right in that right smack dab in the middle between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, sort of how they built their feud to the second biggest show of the year. So missing out on King of the Ring, while he may or may not have gotten that title shot against Shawn, it's a big deal, and it's a huge price to pay.
Right,
and it leaves an opportunity.
Yes, indeed, and it's an opportunity for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now it doesn't seem like it because I watched this event only days after it had taken place. I didn't have the black box capability yet, so I couldn't see those live, but my aunt and uncle would tape them and make sure that I would get them like the week of.
Awesome.
So I wasn't too far behind.
Nice.
I remember watching this thinking, Jake the Snake's going to win this.
You thought so?
Yeah, I Seriously did. Stone Cold is in a match with Mark Marrow. That's the semifinal match. It's a 17-minute match. Great. Stone Cold gets busted open real bad here. Split all the way in half. Like his lip is just open.
Oh, it's gross. Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets taken to a facility, stitched up. They said he didn't, but he did.
Yeah.
Gets stitched up. He comes back. And he's ready to take on Jake the Snake Roberts, who beats Vader.
Yeah.
But that's only because of disqualification. So Jake's really hurt in this match. Yeah. Vader beat the hell out of him. They keep Vader strong. Yeah. But he loses the King of the Ring tournament.
Right. And so in the time between when he is being rushed back from the hospital, minutes before the main event, the final against Jake, so he's obviously missed the show, and he runs into Doc Hendricks, which is the gimmick name of Michael Hayes at the time.
Hey,
Doc Hendricks, WWF Shop Zone. And so kind of the infamous story that's been told a million times is that he talks to Michael Hayes, and just to get a feel for what's been going on in the show, and Michael Hayes, just for whatever reason, mentions that Jake quoted, had a religious themed promo, had quoted
Austin, Jake quoted the Bible.
And then a light bulb goes off in Austin's head that's worth about, I don't know how many millions of dollars.
And he whoops Jake's ass in the finals. And it's 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
And he gets up on there, and I was like, whoa, a bad guy won this. Like, yeah. I mean, I had seen a bad guy win it before, but Stone Cold at the time was a nasty bad guy.
Yeah, and he was the first to completely wholesale reject. They had the ridiculous crown, cape, and scepter. And Austin, I don't know if he actually like throws it down or anything, but he doesn't put it on. So he's just, he's pissed off, and he's doing that interview with Doc Hendricks. And this is the infamous Austin 3:16 promo.
Yep. He says, you sit there and pump your Bible. Call him
You sit there and you thump your Bible and you quote your Psalms and your John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass.
And then Doc goes, whoa, right after that.
Yeah, but I mean, in the same promo, calls out everybody in the company, calls out HBK and Bulldog who are in the main event. This is him serving notice that this is soon to be the Stone Cold show.
Right. So we're gearing towards that. How exciting. Also, earlier in the card, we have Ahmed Johnson defeating Goldust to become the Intercontinental Champion. So he's top ranked there.
Yep.
Ahmed! I loved him. He was huge, big, stocky black dude that was just a wrecker.
Yeah.
And obviously not safe in the ring now that I watched the matches back.
Not safe at all. That Pearl River plunge is... Lucky he didn't break anybody's neck with it.
Yeah.
But, this and then another, Goldust was, always pushing the envelope. We mentioned the backlot brawl. This was the same feud where he does mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on Ahmed in an episode of Raw.
Yes.
Leading up to this match, I think, and that was like one of the early edgy Raw segments too.
Yes, indeed. And we also have the rematch from last card. It's Shawn Micheals and British Bulldog. Yeah. It's a singles match for the WWF title, and Mr. Perfect is a special outside enforcer. But he was in the heels locker room before and yada yada. So there's some type of collusion there, but not really. It doesn't really come down to it. Yeah. 26-24. This is over. Shawn Micheals wins this one. But then at the end, we get Camp Cornette coming out. That's Owen and Vader beating down on Shawn Micheals, and then we get Ahmed coming for the save. And then the Warrior comes in for the save.
Yes.
And watching this back, it is so bizarre. because you have the three faces that are like the top guys in the company at the time.
Yeah.
It's Ahmed, Warrior, and Micheals, three top faces.
Ahmed and Warrior, it's a weird combination.
Shawn hugs Warrior in this weird fake way. It's like the strangest thing I've ever seen. He's just like, I'm not gonna get too much Warrior on me, but
no, yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like at this point, I mean, Warrior is getting the big money, so Shawn's definitely trying to protect his spot. I mean,
exactly.
And Shawn was around, as a part of the Rockers for Warrior's first run, and Warrior's been known to not do business in the best way, and he represents it even until I think Vince bringing Warrior back was like the last gasp of Vince trying to get back to that era of like the Giants,
right? The Hogan-esque.
Yeah. So even as Bret has his run and Shawn is beginning his run, he's still like trying to get back to that era. He's trying to grasp at straws to get there, and he brings Warrior in. And was this he was gone pretty soon after this, right?
Yeah, right. Like almost after this, man.
Yeah.
July 7th, he's gone. Warrior is missing some dates. He says it's because of his father's death, but he was estranged from his father and never really around his father. And he missed some dates before his father's death, but said that it was because of his father's death.
Maybe he had like a premonition.
Yes, a premonition. Yeah, but Warrior's in and out, and for lack of a better term, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that.
I've, obviously, it's no one to speak ill of the dead, but I don't think I've, except for his matches with Macho.
I don't think I could see what direction WWF would go with Ultimate Warrior. Would they even put the title back
That's
on
a good
him?
point.
Where would they have even stood from this contract?
Could you imagine
this next year out?
Yeah, could you imagine Warrior in the Attitude Era?
No.
The Attitude Era was all about realness,
right?
And Ultimate Warrior was just the opposite of that. He was
a gimmick,
over the top gimmick. Fill the rocket ship with the jet fuel.
Oh, Hogan,
Hulk Hogan,
Kogan. It's Kogan.
Kogan.
So, Warrior's gone.
Yep.
They need to hire somebody to come in, and they get good old Sid Vicious. They hire him back. He was around in 1995 as a good heel there.
Yep, and even as early as 92.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. He was supposed to be the next Hogan.
Yeah.
That didn't work out.
Didn't pan out, no.
No, so Sid is the replacement for Ultimate Warrior here. And they're going to go against Camp Cornette at the next pay-per-view. But before that, we got something going on in July, man. It's Bash at the Beach.
Yeah.
That's in Daytona Beach, Florida, July 6th. And I saw this one live.
Did you? Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I was out of school at this time. And I went over to my aunt and uncle's, the one that used to tape it. And my uncle, he was a big wrestling mark back in the day. He used to watch all the NWA stuff. And
awesome.
He knew the names and everybody. Ken Patera fan.
Ken Patera, Mark. There's not many of them.
No, I know. But he used to talk about him like he was everything.
Yeah.
We're watching it live. There's a lot of adults there. And I'm there with the one friend that I had before with the WrestleMania 12, and we're watching this thing go down, and it is Hall and Nash against Sting, Luger, and Savage, and they're supposed to be a mystery partner. And who appears? It's Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
Yes, indeed.
Presumably coming to save the day.
But whose side is he on?
Whose side?
I don't remember that even being said.
Yeah, you don't?
No, not at the time. Hulk Hogan comes out, and we were like, oh, whoa. We thought he was going to save it.
Yeah, because Luger gets knocked out of that match early on.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And apparently the rumors are that Luger was supposed to be the guy that they were gearing towards. Yeah. There was also some other names like Tatanka.
I've heard Sting.
I've heard Sting as well.
Yeah, Sting was Bischoff's backup plan for that.
Yep. Which would have been interesting as well.
Very true, yeah.
But Hogan comes out, drops the leg on Savage. Whew. Turns.
Big moment.
This is huge, man. He had been a face since 1981, and the face of wrestling too. Made the WretroMania, made everything.
Yeah.
And now he's a bad guy, solidified bad guy. And he's joined up with these WWF guys from New York. And he's talking about it in that way.
Yeah.
He's goes on to say, you know, brother, Bischoff hired me, brother, and dude, and we got this thing, and just to put it, I'm bored, brother. And he says that clear out, and the fans are raining down with garbage, everything.
Yeah.
And this right here is the new world order of professional wrestling, brother.
It's perfect.
Yes, indeed. That's what he says. And right after he says that, one of my uncle's friends says, it used to be NWA. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know what he was talking about at the time. So I'm just like, huh?
That's hilarious.
NWA. I said it used to be NWA. I'm kind of confused.
That's great.
So NWO was formed there. That's really huge for what builds the tension between WWF and WCW, because now WCW has something solid that is driving their TV, and it's this NWO force. And it's because you got two guys from New York that turned the viewership up. Then you get the main guy that was from New York from the past.
Yeah.
He's heel, and he's the leader of it all. And he's a great heel. I hated Hulk Hogan at this time because of the heel turn type deal.
Yeah.
But I always thought Nash and Razor were cool. But Hogan, now that I watch him back, classic. He's so good.
Yeah, I mean, he could... if you just look at it, you know, from his perspective, the creative, you know, what a shift that is, and all this stuff that he could never do as a face for all those years. Now it's just wide open, and you know, there were some growing pains in the heel turn for sure. I remember seeing an interview with like Nash, I think, and they were talking about like how when they were cutting those early NWO promos, he was trying to be the same Hulk Hogan.
Well, you know, I tell you.
Yeah, and they're like, no, you gotta be cool about it, and they're trying to be, you know, edgy. They're trying to, you know, sort of portray this, this whole thing. And he was kind of going with that instinct to go over the top, but eventually he settled into it, and he was a damn good heel for that first run.
Yes, indeed, and always the best part was that he always patronized like an old person in the audience, and they really like wanted to get him. There was a couple times where it was like an old lady or somebody just barking back at him, and he just plays it up to the T. He's a classic heel.
And these were not stunt grannies.
No, these were real grandmas. They were probably watching NWA back in the day. That was NWA. So, from this big heat up that WCW and now the newly formed NWO, they get all this heat behind them. We got this lackluster shit going on in WWF, man.
Yeah.
July 21st, 1996, In Your House 9, international incident. It's an international silent fart.
Yeah, it's forgettable. Very forgettable.
Stone Cold defeats Mark Marrow. Okay, that's his comeuppance from King of the Ring. He's facing the guy that he had beat already, but he's solidifying that, yes, I did win, and I won for a reason.
Definitely.
Then we got Camp Cornette. That goes on. Camp Cornette wins here, man.
Interesting.
The heels go over. Vader pins the champion. And what a better way to set it up, because Vader will go on to face Shawn Michaels at the next pay-per-view, SummerSlam. And that's August 1996.
In Cleveland.
Yes, indeed.
Hey,
I remember that one. But guess what this is sponsored by?
Stridex, right?
Yes. You remembered. Awesome. Okay, Stridex. This was like, you know, this was big at the time. I don't know if many of our viewers will know what it is. Hopefully some will, but it was acne pads, swipes, you know. It was for breakouts. You would put it on your face, and the commercials all the time were a kid slightly older than me, maybe like 12 or something, had like one little red dot, and then would use the pad or whatever.
And then it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Magic.
I I actually wanted to get acne so I could get Stridex.
You thought it was cool?
I don't know why.
Yeah.
That was good advertising, man.
It was
so good.
They made it seem very cool. I think the kid in the commercial would always get the girl at the end. That helps. But and the other thing I remember about the reason Stridex sticks out is because this was the era when WWF would have a gigantic blimp in like a 15,000 seat arena. And then this thing would just be like slowly moving around and like blocking the view for like multiple sections of fans.
People in the 300s, 400s.
Yeah.
Like, God damn it.
It's
Move
just
out
like
of the way, Stridex
it's
blimp.
so out of place.
Yeah, so this is sponsored by Stridex. And we have in this match, or in this card, we have a good buildup. Actually, some things come to light for me because I remember watching the free-for-all for this. And this is where we get into the sexual era of the Attitude blossoming. We have Todd Pettingale, and he's back there, and he is talking to Sunny, who, blonde, beautiful, bodacious, voluptuous.
Yeah, Sunny in 1996 was...
Yeah.
Something to see.
He's talking to her about where's her yellow bikini. He wants to see the yellow bikini. She said she threw her top at him the last time and never got the top back. And he said, "Oh, well, I don't know if you'd want it back."
I don't remember that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I watched that earlier today. He says that.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a reference that's going over my head at the time.
Yeah.
But not now.
No.
So then right after that, Sable's in the background. And another big reason that Mark Mero got hired is because he brought his wife, Sable, Rena Mero, with him and to the interview with Vince McMahon, and they saw big money in her.
2 big dollar signs.
Yeah, one to the left, one to the right. And he says, "Wow, look at Sable in the bathing suit. Oh my God, wow." Goes over to talk to her, but then eyes Marlena. Marlena has a cut open V bikini, and this is a bikini beach blast-off is what they're supposed to be having at the beginning of this free-for-all.
Yeah.
And it's, just women in bikinis. Nothing to do with wrestling.
No.
Before we had faces like Miss Elizabeth or Missy Hyatt, and they were pretty and...
Yeah, but they were like... Miss Elizabeth, of course, would always be wearing like a very classy looking, cocktail dress or a nightgown. But yeah, there was none of this like over the top, like an entire like live segment of like, all right, well here are some girls.
Here's some girls
to look at.
Yeah. The only thing close I could say was maybe Sherry and Luna with their ring attires, but they were like villains, so I didn't see it as sexual in a way.
It was, like threatening. Now
when I watch back, I'm like, oh, yeah. So also leading into that, you got to think WrestleMania 11, who comes out with Diesel and Shawn?
Pamela Anderson.
And Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah.
Both Playboy models.
Yep.
And that's leading me to where I think Vince McMahon saw, all right, we get these involved, and then they know who they are, and they're jerking off to them. We throw them in there. Everybody's gonna blow their load, pretty much. That's what I'm thinking. He was going on in his brain.
Yeah.
So we have that Bikini Beach blast, but before that, we got Stone Cold. He's called Stone Cold now.
Yeah.
And he's got a nice sweet vest with this blue and white design that it's hardly ever seen. It's Stone Cold with a star on the back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys design in a way, but
better.
So we got Stone Cold going up against Yokozuna, 600 something plus pounds, nearing 700.
Yeah, poor Yoko. He was starting to get off the rail. I mean, he was well off the rails at this point, and it would get worse for a while. This is the infamous match where he goes for the bonsai drop, correct?
Yes, and the top rope breaks.
Yeah.
But looking back, it was planned.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He pulls so hard on it, and I see the ropes the strands around the turnbuckle just loosening with it, and the way he falls back and Austin rolls and just covers him, it's too planned for me to think that was something that happened on the fly.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I haven't gone back and watched that one in forever, but
if you see it, he yanks the hell out of that.
Yeah.
On purpose. Yeah. But a great finish because it's a way to keep Austin strong, because basically in this match he's doing a lot of clotheslines, swatting at Yokozuna, and then he tries to go for a crossbody. Yokozuna catches him with a Samoan backdrop, and then basically he's going for the bonsai drop after that.
Yeah.
And boom, Austin over. And as Austin's leaving, he says, "I just whooped the biggest piece of ass in WWF." Yeah. And he did. Yeah. And that puts him over big. Yokozuna, a 2-time champion, and they say that beforehand, and they're really trying to push Austin at this time.
Yeah. It's a significant victory, even though it was, relegated to the free-for-all pre-show. It was continuing to set him up because he would have a big feud coming up very soon.
Yep. And then we get another kind of first for the WWF. We have the first ever Boiler Room Brawl. That's Mankind and Undertaker.
Yeah.
Did you like that match?
I love this match. It's set up so they start in the Boiler Room, and you win the match. The first person, they had because Mankind was trying to steal the urn at this point, like many a heel have done over the years and would continue to do. So the urn was set up in the middle of the ring. They started in the Boiler Room, and whoever gets to the urn first is the winner of the match. There's a significant. Most of the match is set up, and I need to go back and read. I'm not sure if it was live or not, like the brawling.
I don't believe.
You don't think so?
I don't believe so either. Yeah. I didn't get into that in my details. You guys can email us in or send us hate mail if you want.
Yeah.
Trying to get deep in my details.
Yeah.
It's a lot of research, I know, but the main goal here is for us to catch up to the timeline of 1997.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in that match, what happens?
This is the infamous turn of Paul Bearer.
Yes, indeed.
Paul Bearer, for the first time, turns on the Undertaker, and I remember this hurting my heart.
Oh my God,
it hurt my heart. Yeah, because Paul Bearer had been with the Undertaker not since day one, because he originally was brought out with Brother Love, but yes. He had been with him pretty much since day one, and to see Paul Bearer turn his back and go with Mankind, it was a pretty shocking and emotional heel turn.
And it seemed like a package deal with those guys.
Yeah,
you never really could. I couldn't fathom Undertaker without Paul Bearer. He held the urn.
Yeah, certainly couldn't fathom Paul Bearer without the Undertaker.
Right, but no, he's got a new apprentice in Mankind.
Yep.
And Mankind goes over in this one.
Yep.
26 minutes. Then we got the main event. Shawn Micheals against Vader. And this match originally had Vader win it twice. He wins first by countout by attacking Shawn Micheals, and then after disqualification because Micheals struck Vader with Cornette's tennis racket.
Mm-hmm.
Vader has Cornette in his corner, and Cornette always has the tennis racket.
Of course, yeah.
So Gorilla Monsoon comes out, and Cornette is demanding for the match to restart. They do, and they get it on still. And this is where Shawn Micheals is yelling at Vader. He just doesn't see him as a performer. Shawn is kind of throwing antics in the ring. This is another sign of Shawn Micheals breaking his actual character and showing his real frustrations in the ring.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely acting out, and you can start to see that and start to see the pressures are coming from being the top guy and you have this huge enemy in WCW and having to constantly compete with them, and then also his own personal demons are
right.
More and more they've been there, but they're more and more starting to affect him. So, in what ways in this match is?
Okay, so there's a spot where Shawn Micheals goes up to the turnbuckle and Vader's laying on the ground, and I guess some type of confusion as if Shawn should have thrown the elbow or he wanted to do a crossbody. He jumps off the top rope, just lands on his feet, and kicks Vader and says, "Get up, you piece of shit!"
Wow.
Yeah. So There's some miscommunication there, and I think it's also because Vader is known to be a little snug in the ring.
Yeah,
and Shawn
isn't having that. He's definitely in his prima donna phase, and probably didn't want to work with him in the first place. I know Vader was originally supposed to go over.
Yes, and then they were supposed to have a rematch at Survivor Series.
Yeah,
and this was going to be big for Vader, and I think this destroyed Vader's career in the WWF.
Yeah. I mean, he would go on to have some more good matches, but this, as in terms of being like a main eventer, sort of delegitimized him.
Yes, indeed. So now we're gearing towards September 1996. September 14th of that month, we have the South African match. This is the first of Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Bret Hart finally making his way back to the company. I think does the Raw. He comes out on Raw and has this announcement. It might have been before or after this, where he commits to, he announces that he's re-signing with WWF, because they didn't mention WCW by name, but there was an episode of Raw where Bret comes out and says he's going to be with the WWF forever.
Yes,
forever. And so he's starting to build towards that comeback, and I think that would.
He signs a 20-year deal.
20 years. Which is bonkers, because he's already 40.
Yeah,
at this point.
It would later consist to narrowing down like lesser dates, and then going on to what we now know as a Legends deal.
Yeah,
to make appearances and be kind of like the icon, and show up for special things.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that contract goes.
See how far he gets into it.
Yeah. So Bret returns for this epic match with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And do you like this one?
I love this match. Yeah, it's you can tell right off the bat, even for two guys who haven't worked together, the chemistry is there, and they put on a match that's right up there with the two that they would go on to have, and obviously multiple. They would have Survivor Series, WrestleMania, an in your house match after that. I mean, their feud is legendary, and I think definitely one of my personal favorites.
Yep. And it's basically they're outside of the ring, they're inside of the ring. It's a lot of outside antics by Stone Cold. It's related to his character, and this goes on to foreshadow their future match at WrestleMania 13, the violence that these guys could go through with each other.
Yeah.
Stone Cold is ringing up for, he uses the DDT symbol for the finger,
because that's his now.
Circle. Yeah. But he uses that to signal for the Stone Cold Stunner, and he grabs Bret, but Bret turns back to back. They lock arms. Bret climbs up the rope, flips over Stone Cold, and then grabs him into a small package. 1, 2, 3, Bret wins. The crowd goes insane because they love Bret Hart. This is South Africa, too.
Yeah.
Bret's huge overseas.
Huge.
But a great match, too. So later that month, we have September 22nd, In Your House 10, Mind Games.
This is a good one.
This builds up Mick Foley, Mankind, otherwise known as. He's got Paul Bearer in his corner, and he's going to take on Shawn Michaels, the champion. This is a great match. And, of course, at the time, I hated it. I didn't understand the psychology of Mankind, and I thought he was kind of boring, and as well as Shawn Michaels kind of being a guy that I didn't like, and I knew that Bret was coming back. I was kind of just not into this one, but now watching it, wow.
Yeah, I know. I had the same sort of transition with that match. Like, didn't do much for me as a young kid. Definitely looking forward to Bret coming back, but you've got the clash of styles in this match of Foley with being the best brawler, one of the best brawlers of all time, and Shawn being arguably the best technical wrestler of all time. And they put it all out there, and you see Shawn Michaels, perhaps in a space where he's more willing to work with Mankind than he was with Vader.
Exactly. And they get a little extreme. This is in Philadelphia. And during the free-for-all event, Savio Vega and Marty Jannetty are having a match, but Savio gets attacked by Justin Bradshaw, and after the match, they're leading up to a strap match between Savio Vega and Bradshaw. But during the match, two wrestlers from ECW, that's Extreme Championship Wrestling, who we spoke about earlier.
Yes.
Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman, they're shown ringside, and they get involved in the match before they get thrown out. And this is kind of like, again, what we're talking about, the blurring the lines.
Exactly. So
we got these ECW guys on WWF TV, but they're getting kicked out, and there's something going on here.
Definitely.
And during the match, the main event match, we have Shawn Michaels jumping off of a chair and giving a super kick to Mankind. Then we have a spot I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Then we have Mankind getting thrown from the ring onto a table. I mean, we had seen a table spot with Bret and Diesel before, and I think that was the only one. Few and far in between, like you said. We haven't seen table spots like that.
Yeah.
Mankind goes head first through this table. It looks deadly.
Brutal spot.
Oh, but it's so great. Shawn Michaels gets the victory here by disqualification because Vader comes out, and then Sid comes out to chase him, and then we have Undertaker appearing against Mankind. Everybody's continuing their feuds because these in-your-house pay-per-views are kind of filler at this time.
Yeah, they're placeholders, but I mean, they would have their fair share of classics, this being one of them.
Yep. Next month, October 1996, October 20th, we have In Your House 11, Buried Alive.
Dun, dun, dun.
So cool. This is notable because Stone Cold gets his first glass-shattering Hell Freezes Over entrance. Yeah. Before he had kind of got like some sinister violin-type music, and now it's the...
Yeah.
Oh, that classic, man.
Definitely.
Classic. And nobody even reacts to the glass breaking. Nothing.
No. Yeah, this is the first time you've heard it. So
and he just comes out.
Yeah, because they didn't realize at the time when the glass shatters, you know, it's your ass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And Stone Cold beats Hunter Hearst Helmsley here. 15 minutes. They put on a good match.
Yeah.
And then in the main event, we got, not the main event. Then we have a number one contender for the WWF title. We get Sid beating Vader. This is actually removing Vader from the title spot now. Like you said earlier, they're not looking for that direction of Vader having the title anymore.
Yeah.
They're going with Sid.
Yeah, and Shawn has probably everything to do with that. I mean, just as, playing politics and, talking to Vince and having Vince's ear and telling him who he wants to work with and who he doesn't. I mean, you bring in a guy like Sid who he has worked with in the past, who that comfort level is there more so than Vader.
Right. So Buried Alive match. Shawn Michaels isn't doing anything on this one. He's got a dark match later in the night with Goldust, and it's nothing.
Yeah.
But the main event, Buried Alive, Undertaker gets buried by Mankind, and
it's pretty scary.
Yeah. The Executioner, who's
Yeah.
Terry Gordy.
Yeah.
He's another WCW guy. He used to be a Freebird, but they cover him up in a mask. He's a huge mass of a person, but all these people come out, and Undertaker's buried, but his hand rises again. Yeah. They're still building for that. After the event in the coming weeks, we get this stuff with Stone Cold. He is challenging Bret Hart, calling him back. And he, like you said earlier, what does he say?
If you take the letter S and put it in front of Hitman, you have my exact opinion of Bret Hart.
Exactly. So they're taking a huge risk building this because Bret still hasn't officially done the signing yet.
Okay, yeah, so that was later, yeah, because he did, and that makes sense because I think the international dates in the space between WrestleMania 12 and his official
he was
re-signing,
already committed.
He was committed, yeah.
And Bret's a guy that stays with his commitments.
Oh, absolutely.
So he does those international dates, but he's still got until about September, or till late October to figure out what he's doing. But they're taking a risk on this, building Bret and Austin. So for a safety, we have an altercation with Austin and Mr. Perfect that happens on Superstars, just in case it would be Stone Cold and Mr. Perfect.
Wow, this is something I didn't know.
That's so interesting.
That is very interesting.
I couldn't imagine that. But Bret does finally sign with WWE. And on October 21st, he makes his dramatic interview and return, and he accepts the challenge of Stone Cold Steve Austin. That leads us to November 17th, 1996, the Survivor Series at Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
We're back in that famous building. Woo! And what a match it is.
It is just a bell-to-bell classic. Technically, one of the best matches. Definitely technically better than some of the other matches they've had. They were just, what is the match time on this? It's close to 30.
24:41.
Yeah, and they, it's so impressive to see Bret go back into that big spot after taking so much time off. Save a few dates here and there, just not skipping a beat at all.
Yep, and they go on to have a great match here, man. I'm gonna read an excerpt from Bret Hart's book.
Awesome.
And this is the book that we were talking about earlier. It's
Hitman Hart.
Yeah. Hitman Hart, My Real Life in the Cartoon World of Wrestling. Yes, indeed. This is chapter 37 called Everyone Around the World Hates Americans. He starts off by saying, while I had been gone, Stone Cold Steve Austin had really flourished as a heel. By Survivor Series 1996, on November 17th, he'd become such a good heel, he was starting to turn babyface. The fans loved him. This was something he wanted to avoid because his heel run still had plenty of steam. He had such a great look for a heel, with a bald head and menacing eyes and burned a hole through you. He wore simple black trunks with black boots and came across like a real badass son of a bitch. His promos were intense. His Texas talk and ornery look gave him a unique magnetism. That was the big night for Steve. The week before Survivor Series, he flew to Calgary to work out the entire match with me. He was a friend of Shawn's, and they had been having some great matches together. These are at house shows. Apparently, Shawn and him had been tearing it up at house shows. But standing next to the ring in my pool, Steve confided to me that Shawn wasn't the right guy to lead the company. I took this as the endorsement it was. In surprise return of events, Shawn was going to drop the belt to Psycho Sid at Survivor Series, so he could win it back in his hometown of San Antonio in Royal Rumble at January. In the middle of all that, I'd be thrown into the main event to work a title match with Sid at December in your house. I wasn't sure how Shawn's losing the belt and then winning it back would affect the big rematch that Vince led me to believe that we were going to have at WrestleMania 13. For now, all I could do was focus on my match with Stone Cold. At Survivor Series, Steve and I worked fast and hard, and I only got tired near the end. I had no idea what Vince and JR were going great lengths in their live commentary to subtly tear me down. When I heard it later, I got the first hint of what lay ahead for me. JR described me as slowly getting up and attributing to ring rust. Bret Hart, with a huge move, can't execute the cover. Vince was quickly to add, he just didn't have it, JR. He couldn't capitalize on it. I felt like they were going out of their way to portray me as old and beat up, while I was only doing the best to make Steve look strong and still putting me over. The bout was filled with unbelievable moves and one long continuous fistfight. We brawled on the floor, leveled the Spanish announcer's table, broke down the metal barricade, and duked it out on the front row. As Stone Cold closed for the kill, he stalked me from behind, clamping on the Cobra Clutch, also known as the $1 Million Dream. Much like I had done with Piper at WrestleMania 8, I jumped up, kicked off the corner of the topple backwards, pinning Steve for the 1, 2, 3. When I walked around the ring high-fiving the fans, I was happy when Vince reached out to shake my hand. Still wearing his headset, he still smiled, and with what I took to be loving eyes of a father, he said, "Unbelievable." Later on that night, Sid took the title from Shawn using a gimmick TV camera to bash him while Shawn was distracted when his mentor Jose Lothario, who had supposedly stricken by a heart attack on ringside. Yeah, so that was from Bret Hart's book right there. Yeah. He's going on to tell us that he thinks it's set up for WrestleMania 13, him and Shawn.
Yeah, and this is his first sort of inclination that maybe not. Maybe that's got a different path ahead of me.
Yeah, he thinks that that's going to happen, and I thought that would have been a great epic rematch.
There would have been so much money in it.
Yep.
But yeah, Shawn was, as we'll see, not too interested in doing that, in returning the favor.
Yep. So later on, we're going to get December in your house. It's time. It's
Vader time.
No, he's not there. No, he's not even in the event. This was clearly building up for Vader, but they still stuck with the name. Stone Cold Steve Austin shows up. He attacks the British Bulldog, and WWE officials separate them, and then Hart comes in, and they get separated by Austin, and he clips Bulldog's leg from behind, and he runs off. So he's a bad heel, but he's going after Bulldog, who's someone that Bret is affiliated with. They're not really back together as family friends yet, but this is building to what will later happen. But still, it's this rabid bulldog, this rabid pit bull going after the Bulldog and the Hitman.
Yeah,
and Stone Cold is geared up. He's still not done with Bret Hart.
Yeah.
So at this event, we have Shawn Micheals. He's coming out to do commentary for Sid and Hart, and they're going on to for the title match, and it's an all right match, but it ends with Shawn Micheals getting up on the apron and arguing with Bret Hart, and then that eventually causes Bret to get knocked into Shawn, throwing him down, and then the Sid takes advantage, wins the title, and then we have an argument and altercation with Bret Hart and Shawn Micheals after that. And that's still leading in for them there. And I'm like, wow, these guys are tearing it up. They're going to go at it one more time.
Yeah, they really hate each other. I mean, everything, to this point was, that this was the idea. Even I think Bret has said in interviews, like a lot of like the tension and like especially the post-match promos after WrestleMania 12 were done, gearing up to this, and now we're 3 months out, 3 or 4 months out, and it looks like it's a go. It looks like it's going to happen, but we would soon find out.
Yeah, doesn't really seem to go that direction. This is December 15th, but I'm going to read an excerpt from Bret Hart's book from the day before the In Your House pay-per-view. In West Palm Beach, the night of December 14th, 1996, I slid under the sheets hurting so badly that I had no choice but to wash down a couple of pain pills, plug my heating pad, and smear some icy hot all over my knees and back. I was supposed to wrestle Sid at our title bout the next day in Your House. Wrestling with Jim in the Hart Foundation in the earlier days, I used to feel like the zippy Porsche to Jim's armored tank. Now I felt like an old race car with dinges hidden before every match and a coat of fresh paint. Our match turned out to be surprisingly good. Sid had come to respect me because I helped him when I could. During our match, Shawn sat with Jim Ross at the announcer's table ranting about his God-given right to live life as he chooses. Apparently, the remark I had made a month earlier about him posing for Playgirl had been eating away at him this whole time. Shawn got involved in the finish by climbing on the ring apron where we collided, allowing Sid to jackknife powerbomb me to the mat for the win. I fiercely jumped out and pulled Shawn's shirt over his head like we were in a hockey fight and pretended to beat him senseless. It looked fantastic. Sid came back to the dressing room thrilled with how it went, and Shawn seemed nothing but upbeat. But over the next 2 days of TVs in Florida, he had noticeably distant with me. When I told Vince that I was concerned that I was pissing Shawn off, he downplayed it. Still, I asked him to clarify things for me both and Shawn so that we could do this the right way. He wouldn't listen. Instead of sorting things out, Shawn went out of his way and did angry in-ring interview with me as the target on his rage. I was disappointed to see him lose his babyface composure. I was thinking, oh, Shawn, don't do this. Stay humble. I'm only working. Let me be the heel. I shook my head in utter dismay, trying to figure out what was happening between us. I spent my Christmas holidays aching all over. Yet I worked with Leo Burke and a bunch of green local wrestlers and training at my house in the WWF ring Vince had given me. Over time, those young men became Christian, Edge, Glenn Kulka, Teddy Hart, Mark Henry, and the fake Razor Ramon, Kurgan, Don Callis, Test, Ken Shamrock, who was the Ultimate Fighting Championship at the time, just to name a few.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Quite a class.
Yes. Despite the tension with Shawn, I was on top of the world, set to regain the title while being the highest paid WWF wrestler of all time. So, that's it, man. He's gearing up to be on top of the world.
Yeah.
He's set for it. He's going for it. What do we have coming up next?
The Royal Rumble.
Yes, indeed. Things might go his way. They might not. Let's find out next episode, where we're going to go through the Royal Rumble of 97. Then we'll lead us up to WrestleMania 13. Try to catch us up to June 1997 to where we can be on this timeline and enjoy everything moment for moment.
Yes.
So, hope everybody's enjoying this. Jimmy?
Thank you.
Any remarks? Any?
Yeah, it's about to get pretty interesting. The rematch that had been in the works for almost a year is about to go completely off the rails, and so next episode we're going to look at how we as wrestling fans benefited in that and getting one of the best matches of all time, but also wonder what could have been with potential rematch, and from there on it's getting into the Attitude Era.
Exactly. And we'll see you guys. Well, we won't see you. Well,
you'll hear us.
Yeah, you'll hear us next time on WretroMania. I'm Coby Nida.
Jimmy Price.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of WretroMania, everybody. If you'd like to write in and share with us your nostalgic moments and your memorable or not so memorable moments of the time that we're going through right now, you can email us at retromania@gmail.com. That's retromania with a W, WRETRO, mania@gmail.com. And you can also follow Jimmy. You can talk to him directly. Jimmy?
You can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Jimmy_Price. So yeah, if you want to send me a DM on there, or go through the email for the show, those are the best ways to get me.
Exactly. And we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your memories. We want to hear what your fond moments of this time was in this timeline. And we'll get into it deeper and deeper each week on WretroMania.
Thank you. Hey guys, if you're into professional wrestling and you like to read zines, please check out my buddy Dan's zine called Hot Tag. He takes a look at wrestling fandom from a very personal standpoint and his own journey as a fan, as well as that of some of his friends, myself included. I wrote some stuff for the second issue. And he also has a sort of a new, I guess you could call it a graphic novel in some respects, with some art from some great artists using the tweets of Kojima, who is a pro wrestler in New Japan Pro Wrestling, who has an obsession and a taste for bread. And that's called Cozy's Big Day, and that's a lot of fun. So if you want to check any of this out, please go to hottag.bigcartel.com. Thank you.
What we do on the side, Jimmy, you want to tell them?
Yes, District City Wrestling.
And that's where we both work at.
Yeah, absolutely. It's if you want to go on Twitter, follow us at official DCW. But yeah, we've been putting on a string of shows over the last year plus now, mostly located at Chapala Mexican Restaurant.
Yeah, Blue Beetle Rock Bar.
The Blue Beetle Rock Bar, that's right.
And you can follow us on Instagram as well at official DCW. Yeah. And we post up there all the time. And we got a Facebook. You can find us there, District City Wrestling. We're going to be updating more and more each week, and each new event that comes arise, we'll let you know on the podcast as well. And we hope to have some more guests on here from DCW.
Yeah, and I think we have the last couple shows and full shows. Definitely our most recent show is on the Facebook, correct?
Yep, and that'll be on YouTube as well.
Awesome.
The YouTube channel is District City Wrestling TV. So check that out. Thanks. Jimmy, do you have any old wrestling shirts?
You know, when I was a young man, I had a bunch of very terrifically 90s wrestling t-shirts. I had one Kane shirt that was long sleeves, and it was particularly just terrible. But sometimes I wish I could find some of those old ones, you know?
So do I. I had the Kevin Nash. He had the backwards Tupac bandana. That was too sweet. But I do know this awesome place. It's called thesavagestash.com. It's your wheeler and dealer for the best vintage wrestling shirts, merch, and everything in between. The absolute cream of the crop. Yeah.
Sounds like quite the excellence of execution. Where can I find that again?
That's thesavagestash.com. And you can find them at The Savage Stash on Instagram and Facebook. Everybody look them up for your vintage clothing. Do it! Dig it! Done! Yeah! Huh!